Please note that the content of this episode has explicit language and is not suitable for underage listeners. Hi, I'm CJ, and I've been a phone sex operator for 23 years. Let's get started. Hi there. So somebody wrote me recently and asked me if I had any suggestions on how to get started as a caller on a phone sex line. So I figured I would take this opportunity to give you some helpful hints on how to become a caller and how to become a phone sex operator, because I've had a lot of questions about that. So let me give you some insight and guidance if you want to be a caller or if you want to be a phone sex operator. So since I haven't called the phone sex line, I can only imagine how to begin. So from my perspective, let me tell you what I think. First of all, you have to have an idea of what you're looking for other than getting off. Obviously, you're calling because you want to talk to someone pretty based on the pictures and someone who can do whatever it is you're looking for as far as fantasy, role play, whatever it is you want. The best callers for me are ones that call with an idea. I have a role play I want to do. I have a fantasy I want to talk about. Whatever it is, to have an idea of what you want. Don't be afraid to say what you want. You're calling someone and it's anonymous. You can say whatever you want, more or less. We don't know who you are, so you can be as free as you want to be. Like I've told you in previous podcasts, you can call acting vanilla with a normal sex life and then in the middle change and say you're wearing panties or whatever it is that you're doing. That's totally fine. But have an idea. I cannot stress that enough. If you call and you have no idea and all you want is to please the phone sex operator, some girls are good with that. I am not. If you call asking me questions, that's totally fine. Some people just call and ask questions, all sorts of questions about my real life, about my work life, and that's okay too. So kind of know what you want. I want someone who calls and has somewhat of an idea because that way we can have a really good conversation. So someone called me the other night and said, actually, they didn't call me. They wrote me first and said, I see you do taboo. Well, taboo means so many different things to so many people. So I said, I do. What do you have in mind? He said, I have an overage stepdaughter who, this was his fantasy, overage stepdaughter who has an OnlyFans page, and he came across it and then she catches him looking at her pictures. Well, in my mind, I'm thinking stepdaughter, good. Overage, over the legal age, good. Why not? We can do that. So he's got an idea. I don't have to know step by step what's going to happen because this is a role play, but I do need to know a broad stroke, if you will. An idea. So that is really the advice I would give anyone who wants to start. Have an idea, and if you don't have an idea, I don't suggest you call. Think about it and then make a phone call. I've also said I don't do silent calls, and I got asked that the other night as well. Someone came up with this very huge, long written scenario, and at the very end, he was like, do you do silent calls? And the silent call, if you don't remember, is where they say nothing. Somebody calls you, I have to say everything, and they don't talk, and I refuse that because I used to have to do that in other companies. I want the back and forth. I want the conversation. I want to have phone sex with someone who's going to talk back to me. I do not want to talk to air because they don't even make a sound. You don't even know they're there. They probably have you on mute so you can't hear anything in the background. Oftentimes a silent call is if someone's in the house with them, they're too shy to talk, they have a roommate. There's all sorts of reasons for silent calls. I cannot stand them. Have I said that? I can't stand them. Anyway, I had a call the other night where I was talking to this guy. He's like, I'm grilling a T-bone steak in my backyard and I'm standing here and I'm getting hard. And he was telling me about all these things and all of a sudden he got interrupted. But he didn't hang up the phone. I'll be there in a minute. I'll be there. I'll be back. And I'm like, staying silent. I know I'm not on speakerphone, but he wanted to continue on talking to me. And this person in the background was female saying, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. And he's like, I'm out back, blah, blah, blah. I'll be back. And so I thought that was interesting because most people go, oh shit, and hang up. And so anyway, I digress. So the point of this whole thing is, let's reiterate here, is have an idea. It doesn't have to be perfect, but don't be silent. Have an idea and follow through with it. And you can change your idea in the middle of the conversation. It can be all over the place if you want. But you can also tell the girl, me, for example, that you're nervous. You've never called a phone line before. I would say, okay, so what'd you call for? That's not me being snippy. It's I want an idea of why you're here. And if it's because you don't know, because of whatever, that's okay too. It gives us something to talk about. So I'm sure there's a voice that you want to hear. There is something that you're looking for. If the person that picks up the phone isn't the right person, call back, look at some other pictures, but really call with the intent of knowing what you want. And I understand too that people are nervous, like I said, and I get nervous too. Trust me, I do. When I have a new caller, I don't know what the person wants, but I just try to have fun with it. You know, you want what you want. So that's really the advice I want to give the caller. And I hope that helps you. And if it doesn't, write me back and let me know what it is you really are looking for. Now, if you're someone who is contemplating doing phone sex, that's a little more information. It doesn't matter about your voice, first of all. There's always a voice for something. So what I would say, and I think I might have brought this up before, but this is a little more detailed, is come up with a name that you're comfortable with, and then you have to come up with a few things before you even start. You have to know who this girl is, whether it's a version of you just tweaked a little bit or someone different. You have to know what you look like. I always say I'm 5'6", 125, hazel eyes, brown hair, 34C tits. And I ramble it off like that. Like I know it like the back of my hand because I do. The name is really important because you have to be comfortable. You have to be comfortable not only with your name, but what you look like. When they call you that name, when they say, hey, CJ, which isn't, I told you that's not my work name, but when they say that, I'm comfortable hearing it because, you know, when someone calls you the wrong name, it's startling, right? So you have to have a good name. I decided to choose a name that doesn't sound like a porn name, like Candy or Bubbles or whatever those names are. I wanted it to sound more real. And there are girls on there that are named Candy or Blue or whatever the name is. And I'm not saying that's bad. But like I've told you before, that I don't want to come across as an ooh baby porn star. You may want to, I do not. So those names weren't for me. I wanted to sound real. The next thing you need to do is have a backstory because some people do ask you, do you do this for a living? You can say, yes, you're on here 24/7, but most of you won't be. So my backstory is what I used to do a long time ago so I can speak to that if they ask me questions. What my first career was, what do I do now? And actually, some people have asked me about what I do during the day, and that goes on and on. So you have to know all these things first. Nobody told me that before because I worked at companies where they gave you profiles, they gave you information. But if you find a place where it's just a platform, then you have to come up with everything, your name, your background, and all of that. You know, you've got to find pictures that you're comfortable with. You know, if you're a brunette and you've always wanted to be a blonde, find blonde pictures. If you're a brunette and you can't stand anything other than being brunette, find brunette pictures. Everything needs to make you feel comfortable. If you have a fantasy of what you want to look like, try to find pictures like that. So there's many things you need to do before you log in. Like I said, companies have given me different names and I'm not comfortable with any of them. And it was really hard for me. So I've been this name for so long that she is me. We are one. I'm very comfortable with her. So all of this needs to be set up in your head on a piece of paper, whatever you do before you start. You need to know it. The next thing is, which you probably won't know till you get into it, is how far will you go? What do you like? What don't you like? And again, you may not know that till you get into it. In your real life, you may be like to be very plain, very vanilla, which is straight, ordinary sex, which is totally fine. You could be the girl next door. Totally fine. Will you say you've been with women? Will you say you've been in a threesome? Will you say you'd like to be submissive or you like to be dominating? You have to figure out what you want to do, and I've told that to a few people that have asked me. So there's a lot of things you need to figure out before you start doing this. Now, as you go along, you can change. Of course, you can figure out, I don't like this, I like this. So it's not ever set in stone. You can always change things per the caller. But remember who you told what to. You don't want to get caught in a lie. I used to keep notes. I am telling you, I had books and books of notes. I'd write a person's name down. I'd get a description, whatever it was. And I would keep notes so that when they called back, I knew what we talked about. I knew who they were. I'd go, hey, John, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Oh, yeah, how's, your next door neighbor? Have you peeked in on her lately? I mean, it's good to be familiar. They appreciate that you remember them. And so, and what you told them, yeah, I've been with 3 guys in one day. I've had 2 orgies, whatever it is. You just want to be consistent. You don't want to be caught in a lie, and you let them know who you are. I've said this before too. If you want to be successful, you have to try and not be judgmental. You will get calls from people who you don't agree with, you find actually despicable or disgusting. But I've said before too that we're not here to judge. We're not here to judge people. We're here to make money. And if you were to judge, well, let me rephrase that. If I were to judge my callers, I would probably have very few. And if you're doing this to make money, you just have to listen to what they say and hang up when you're done, or when they're done, they'll hang up. This is certainly not for everyone, but in my case, I've learned a lot about myself, and I've learned a lot about people in general. And if you do this long enough, you learn, and I sound like a broken record, and I apologize, that communication is key in a relationship, which we know. And for those people who are in a relationship, but yet they're calling me or any phone actress, there is a reason for that. And that is that they're not getting something at home or in their personal life if they're single. So if you look at that and realize that, then it's easier to digest. You have to have empathy, compassion, and understanding of what these people are looking for. I know, people think I'm crazy for saying that. But, you have to think about them. They're calling you. They're spending their money on you. You have to think, this guy, I feel bad for him. Okay, you don't have to feel bad for him, but I do. And that's what gets me through. You just don't know who's calling you. And the best guy in the world could be calling you and have had terrible relationships. And he's looking for an outlet. And you're the lucky person to get that call. So you really have to decide if listening to people is your thing. And if it's not in your personal life, then it probably won't be here. It's not going to magically change. So that is my advice. You have to know yourself and what your limits are. And like I said, I talked my sister into doing it, and she did 1 call, and it wasn't even phone sex, and she couldn't handle it because she has no patience. So that will overflow into this job. It's not going to magically make you a different person. It might open your eyes and make you sexually more aware of what you like and don't like, but you are who you are. I think it could be for anyone, but it really does depend on your personality. I also know someone who is kind of a man-hater and wants to take out her aggression on the caller, and there's an audience for that too. So on the flip side, you could take out your aggression on the caller, and you could be completely different than me and be very dominating and tell a guy to shut up and listen and that he's a pig, and there's an audience for that. If you want to take out your aggression on men, this could be a good outlet for that as well. That's not in my wheelhouse, so I can't speak to that. But again, when you're trying to figure out who you want to be, and if you're really sweet and nice, but you hate men, or you want to get your aggression out on men because they've done you wrong, whatever the case may be, you can be that person too. If you're a daddy's girl, the list goes on, of course. So being a daddy's girl could be a fantasy for you. As a phone sex operator, this could be you living out your fantasy. So there's a lot of things that need to go into how you're going to approach this. If you're going to do this, you can always write to me and ask me questions, and I will be happy to answer at phonesexqueen1@gmail.com. I'll be happy to answer your questions about how to get into this. I don't recommend using your own pictures, but some people do want to, and that's okay. That's up to you. Like I said, I don't recommend it, but it's up to you. I can't tell you what to do. The other thing I've mentioned before, and I just want to reiterate that, is that don't use becoming a phone sex operator to meet people. So don't give out too much information about where you live, your phone number, or your email address unless you make up a separate email address for your girl. Just be careful. I can't stress that enough, that you have to treat it as an anonymous job and don't treat it like it's a dating site. So I wanted to say that as well. I am not advocating anybody to do this, but people have asked me, so here is the information I'm providing to you. Don't write me asking where I'm working. I'm not going to divulge that, but I did say that there is a website called sexyjobs.com where you can find companies to apply to. And like I said, if you have any questions, reach out to me and I will be happy to assist you. If you want training, I can provide that as well. That's another thing. Briefly, I've worked at several companies and not one has training. Not one. They just throw you into it, which is quite difficult for some people. It was for me in the beginning. So if anybody wants to learn how to do this, you might think it's easy, but like I said, over the last few episodes, it's not easy. It's work. Every single call I get from a customer that I don't know is difficult. It's difficult. It is challenging, not difficult. It's how you engage. So anyway, enough about that. You know where to reach me. And if you try this, whether you're a customer or a new actress, good luck. Let me know how it goes. By the way, the other question I get is, do women call so that men can be phone actors? And the answer to that is, in my experience, no. Men have to talk to other men and women talk to men. And I think there is a place somewhere out there in the universe where women talk to women. But I've spoken, like I said, to 2 women in 23 years. And it's rare that a woman calls because they don't have to and they don't want to. I do get couples occasionally, but again, that's been a couple of times. So those are my words of wisdom for you. So let me recap this one more time. I will make it brief. If you are a caller, a new caller, come up with an idea and go with it. Even if it's vague, it doesn't have to be to the letter. If you want to be an actress, come up with a name, a backstory, and go with that, and you will be successful. And an open mind. An open mind and listen. Remember, always listen. Don't jump to conclusions. Don't finish sentences. Don't act like you know what the caller wants, because you don't. You may think you do, but you don't. I still don't, unless it's a caller that's a repeat caller. I hope you are all successful. I want you all to be careful. Be careful like you would in your real life. Don't give out any information. Don't do anything unsafe, and you will be fine. You can reach out to me with more questions if you have them. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's important to be safe and be careful. So that is my advice to you all, and I will set you free. So that's all for now. Thank you for listening to Secrets from a Phone Sex Queen, everything you always wanted to know about phone sex and more. Please reach out to me with your questions and comments, like I keep saying. PhoneSexQueen1@gmail.com, on Facebook at CJCJ, and Instagram at PhoneQueen1. Until next time, stay sexy.